What's the one that's hardest for you to watch?
Boy, the stuff that's hard for me to watch is
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Obviously so much of the slasher genre hangs on who is the killer under the mask. So I want to talk about the difference in how you direct the actor who plays the killer versus how you direct everyone else. Without giving anything away, what is a piece of direction or a note you can tell the actor who is the killer that maybe no one else is going to get on set?
Well, when they're the killer, they have a secret. So they're putting on, the mask is what you wear when you're killing, but there's also another mask, and that's the mask you put on for everybody else. So someone in the group is putting on a mask. So the question is, do we want to tip our hand to the audience or do we not? And you never do. So you should be surprised, but you should believe it and look back in retrospect and go, oh, that makes sense. That's why they did that. As far as the actor in the mask, when you're physically doing that stuff, I had a bunch of different actors do it because I didn't want you to be able to identify one person's body language. So I was like, okay, so today you're gonna play John Carver, and for this scene, you're gonna play John Carver. For this scene, you're gonna play John Carver, and then we're gonna have a complete stranger play John Carver. So I completely mix it up. So if you're trying to watch the movie, guessing by the way they turn their head, and they saw what we wanted. They're all basing it on what we want that performance to be. The way John Carver looks around, the way John Carver holds the axe and runs. So I could direct all of them, but we had different people play John Carver so that the audience could never really identify them just by their body language.
Holy shit, that is awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah.
You are the mastermind behind some of my favorite kills of all time, from Cabin Fever to Hostel to Green Inferno, this film. I'm sort of curious, of all of the brutal kills that you have constructed that have sort of made us, I'll never forget opening night of Hostel, the cutting of the eye. Yeah, exactly. What's the one that's hardest for you to watch?
Boy, the stuff that's hard for me to watch is the stuff that didn't come out the way I wanted it to. And sometimes you have like the leg shaving in Cabin Fever, we made these beautiful prosthetics that it was gonna peel like a banana. And in shipping them to North Carolina, they froze in transportation. So we opened them and they were ruined. And so we're like, what do we do? And Garrett Immel, who's our makeup artist, said, well, I'll just put it on with the makeup and I'll just reveal it and we'll just do a sound effect. And I took a shovel and dragged it across concrete and used that so you just did weird little tricks, and we showed it in the theater and people ran out of the theater screaming. So it tortured me. I was like, oh, but it could have been so much better, but it wasn't. That's how it was meant to be. So, if you can't get it in camera, you pull it off with sound, but it's, so then you have your favorites. Like, look, in Green Inferno, when we do Joan and we rip out his eyes and cut his tongue off, all the body parts got stopped by customs because I guess shipping body parts in Peru is kind of a problem. And so we had to prove that they were registered and that it was fake. And then that morning we just went and we picked a bunch of grapes and used a bunch of fruit, and we literally used food for that scene. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be terrible. But people didn't notice the difference. They saw an eye getting gouged out. Once you cover it in blood and put it in your mouth and chew it, everyone sees the eyeball. So it's really fun when you can pull off kind of cheap tricks like that using stuff from the supermarket. That's my favorite.
Holy hell, I love that. I'm going to tell you, if you can't tell, I love the horror genre. I was raised on the horror genre. It's really kind of what made me fall in love with movies. What's weird, and I feel like you can relate to this, it's a comfort for me. Like, I would put on a horror movie to chill, like to relax. I'll put on The Thing or The Shining or whatever the case may be. And I have to defend this genre to friends and coworkers. Like, when I go nuts about a movie, I kind of have to go like, guys, it's not weird. I'm sort of curious, your perspective, as someone who knows horror more than most people, what does it say about people who find comfort in a genre that is, so violent and scary and bloody? Like, what does it say about us?
Well, we all think these things. There was violence long before there was movies. We're born in violence. We die in violence. Violence is a part of our lives. And horror movies are a healthy way of expressing it. Why do kids love fairy tales? Grimm's fairy tales, it's people being baked in ovens and cooked alive. So it's been around for hundreds of years because it helps kids not feel so alone with the mysteries of life and the fear of death. So when you see it also, it's a great way to release those fears. In society, we're not allowed to go around and just be afraid. You can't scream. There's nowhere socially acceptable in polite society to scream at the top of your lungs. But in a horror movie, it says, okay, for the next 90 minutes, you're allowed to be afraid and you're not a coward. So it's this communal release that we all feel. And then I always say that the blood stains your eyes, but that's the first time you see it. But a horror movie is never as scary as the first time you see it. The most scared you will ever be is the very first time you watch Thanksgiving. That's why you got to go see it with a crowd opening weekend with a bunch of people screaming. It'll be the time of your life. It'll be a memory you always have. From that point on, you'll look at the shots, you'll look at the dialogue, you'll look at the clothes, you'll look at your favorite characters, you'll quote it. But it's like a perfume. The first time you smell it, it's so pungent, but each time it gets a little bit less. So the good thing about horror is it's incredibly strong the first time you see it. But the bad thing is, it's like it just loses a little bit of its horror power. But that's when other things, subtext and filmmaking and textures and costume, that's when that rises to the surface. So to me, it makes perfect sense that you'd watch The Thing and The Shining because they're like friends we've had since we were kids that took care of us.
You're absolutely right. I got to tell you, some of my favorite theatrical experiences have been a packed movie theater, 300 strangers watching your movies.
They never. Thank you. It never happens. And that's what I want people to know is that the movie's fun. And that I wanted to give people a gift. You're never going to have that experience again in your life unless you go see it in the cinemas with a group of people. Now's the moment. It
reminded me of I went with my friends at midnight to go see Grindhouse, and it reminded me of that kind of experience. So, dude, from the bottom of my heart, you're actually going to join me and my best friend on our podcast in just a little over an hour. So I won't bug you too much. But seriously, thank you for all of the experiences you've given me, man. I appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Okay. Take care.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.